What is the most important leadership skill that you can acquire? Is it sales, marketing, or maybe it's delegation, giving feedback, communication? No, the most important leadership skill that you can give yourself is cultivating your self-awareness. Because self-awareness is like the basis of conscious leadership. And question yourself, right? Which leader will build a stronger connection with their people? The unconscious leader or the conscious leader? So in this video, I'm going to give you some inspiration, some hooks, some angles on how you can start cultivating a stronger sense of self-awareness on everything you do as a leader. Because the degree in which you are self-aware directly matches the degree to which you can be aware of what's going on in others. Okay? And when you know what's going on in others, that's the foundation of leadership. You can only lead others when you know what's going on in them. Okay? Because it is not about you. It is about them. So every successful organization, whether that's a multi-billion-dollar commercial company, or it is a non-profit organization, or it is, I don't know, a sports club community, it all comes down to the people in the organization. Your people make up the organization, not you as a leader. Okay? So the more you're aware about yourself, the more you're aware about the people in your organization. Now you would question then, okay, so nice that you're saying this, but what is awareness then? What is this self-awareness? Well, you can walk around and say like, I'm a very self-aware person, okay? But a self-aware person would never do that. That's the ego speaking. The ego wants to be self-aware. The ego wants to show like, I understand myself really well. But the truth is, you can't really understand yourself. The truth is, you can only be aware of who is playing in front of you. Yeah? So self-awareness is detaching yourself from the mind, where the ego also sits, and observing what the ego actually does. Okay? And the more you train your capability to observe yourself as a leader, automatically the more conscious aware you're becoming. And that doesn't come from a place of like, oh, I want to be self-aware. You know, people that say I'm a spiritual person are by definition not spiritual people, because that is the ego speaking, and spirituality never sits in the ego. So if you go around and say like, I'm a very spiritual person, you can say, you know, I keep myself busy with spiritual stuff. That's different than saying I am a spiritual person, okay? Because spirituality is the exact opposite. It is observing who says that. Now, why is this so important in leadership? Yeah. Well, if you are able to detach yourself from your ego and observe what your ego does, you become a lot less reactive to what's happening on in the organization. Because there, in every organization, especially one that's in a competitive environment, growing fast, you know, stakes are high, there are a lot of triggers. There are triggers in like, we might lose money, we might lose our talents, we might lose. It's always about lose, 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 fail, fail, fail. And these are constant triggers. Okay? And triggers activate certain states in ourselves. Okay, then those states are coming out of everything we have experienced in the past, whether that was as a kid or as a teenager or even in adulthood. We accumulate experiences that program us to react to a certain trigger in a certain way. Okay, so you might have the fear of failing, which is a very common thing, which makes you want to work 16-hour days, because then at least you feel like you did everything you could. You know, you did not let a minute pass by without working. So if anything goes wrong, you can at least tell yourself, yeah, but I worked 16-hour days, 7 days per week. So something in your organization triggers. But a conscious aware leader would say, okay, I see that I am just looping in a pendulum. A pendulum has caught me, and I'm looping in this trigger. It constantly triggers me, and I constantly react to that trigger by overworking. Or I constantly react to this trigger by saying my people are stupid. I heard this a lot. Like, why do my people never do what they do? And that is, for example, that trigger is activating a pattern in you that you are externalizing success in your business. If something doesn't go well, it's your people. But something goes well, it's you. So creating conscious awareness is becoming aware about these patterns. And you can train that. Meditation is a great way to do that. But you don't necessarily have to do meditation if you don't like it. Although I would say every conscious leader is a conscious meditator as well. Because what happens in meditation, right? Meditation is often seen as like for the alternative people, like, oh, you're into your chakras, you're into your alternative lifestyle, you're one of those others, right? But science actually has proven it, that meditation trains this observer effect, trains the awareness that we are an observer behind the ego. Okay, how? Well, our thoughts are created by the mind. Mind is ego, right? That sits in the same. So every time we are meditating and we are getting a thought, I think that the longest a Nepalese monk can go without thoughts is 3 minutes. That's the longest. They also get thoughts, but they are very trained in instantly recognizing that and getting them back into their focus on letting the thoughts go. Like, so it's the training of recognizing your thoughts coming up and recalibrating, realigning, getting out of your head and back into, I would say, your heart, right? So meditation trains that. But you don't necessarily have to do that in meditation. It can be as simple as looking at the wall, okay? You can look at the wall, and the wall, you see the color of the wall, and like, okay, that's the wall, okay? But you can also look at the wall and realize you are not the wall, and the wall is not you. Yeah? Or you can take any object, your phone, your computer, your whatever it is. You are not that object. You can sense that. It's a sensation. Like, when you look at the wall with that perspective, you will realize that at a certain moment, for me it's around 30 seconds, I start to feel the space between the wall and me. And my consciousness starts to realize like we're separate, okay? That is a great training to do multiple times throughout the day. When you even have, for example, a conversation with a person. So people trigger us, right? They don't trigger our spirit, they trigger our ego, because that's where all the program sits. In the subconscious sit certain programs. They come up when we get triggered. And we react to that. And when we come from a state of anxiousness or angriness or frustration, then our reactions will be sort of the ingredients of our reactions. With those reactions, we create suboptimal results because we never take the most optimal decisions out of a suboptimal state of being. Yeah. So if you have a conversation with a person, or you have a situation in which a person did not deliver what you expected, right? That's the moment to just pause and do that practice that you do with the wall, but then with the person. because we're inclined to directly react to what the person says, right? Like, no, or yes, or you know what, you should do it like this. That's the moment to be conscious. And consciousness can be drilled down to exactly that exercise with the wall. You are you, I am me. I am not you, and you are not me. Your results are not me, and your outcomes are not you. I know it sounds maybe difficult to grasp, but if you do that before anything a person says or does to you triggers you, at that moment you're raising your energy vibration, you're raising your consciousness, and from that moment, from that state onwards, you are actually reverting the suboptimal state. You're putting yourself into an energy frequency that with everything that you will react will be much more constructive to the person. And you will see it will have a tremendously more beneficial output than instantly reacting to a situation from that frustrated state, for example. Yeah. So consciousness about what state am I in, and you feel this frustration. You know how frustration feels, right? You know how anger feels. You know how worry feels. We remember those states. Our body remember all states. You recognize that, you practice this separation with the other person. Okay? And this will raise your consciousness. And the more you do this, the better you get at it, the shorter time you need, and the better as a leader you become. Because a conscious leader is per definition a better leader in terms of connecting with people. And a better connection with your people will always lead to more trust. More trust will lead to better engagement. Better engagement will always lead to better business results. So try this out. Let me know what your experience is with consciousness, with awareness, and how you are applying this already in your leadership. I would love to have a conversation with you about it in the comments. See you in the next video.